Hello and welcome to the Infinity Saga and Beyond, an MCU fan podcast. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, breaking down X-Men 97. Ron, how are you today, Ron?
I'm doing very good, man. I'm stoked, and I will leave it at that because we have got a lot to get into today.
Yeah, so first, before we get started, I just wanted to invite you to this Airbnb I found. We don't know the price of it yet, but
Spoiler alert, none of us are going to be able to afford it.
yeah. So if people haven't seen it, Marvel put out this cool thing today of like I don't know if you saw the poster of Jubilee's phone number, but if you call that
Yep.
number, she tells you about the Airbnb.
Oh, is that what it
And
was? Yeah, I saw
yes,
I saw that on Twitter today, but I didn't see what the actual call led to.
yes, I called it, and she's like talking about where we will be able to go chill out, where the X-Men chill out, and stuff like that. And it was, not long after that they released the pictures and video of the mansion, um, which is something that Disney's doing with Airbnb. They also have the house from Up that is featured as one of these locations, and the headquarters from Inside Out is also featured as some of these locations. But yeah,
Kind of
pretty interesting that
surprised
they
they
picked the
haven't.
X-Men.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised they haven't done more Marvel ones like that. Then.
Yeah, I'm assuming. Let's see, maybe this will be like the first run of stuff, or I don't know. But cool. I mean, like at first I was like, what are these marks on the wall? But it's like to make it look like the cartoon,
Mhm.
where they'll put
Oh yeah.
like creases or lines on there. It looked really
Yep.
cool.
Yep.
I recommend people looking that up if they haven't. But
Maybe I'm
yeah,
gonna
we're
guess.
good.
I'm gonna guess before we get into this. I'm gonna guess that they probably had some kind of idea for something like that in the parks, maybe in California, and then they saw what happened with the Galactic Star Cruiser, and they were like, you know what? Let's not.
That's true. Could be. Yeah, Galactic Star Cruiser. Well,
R.I.P.
not to go way too off in that, but I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I think people know that. We have a podcast about Star Wars as well. But
Recording it after this.
we're recording right. So one of the things that I think didn't really work with Star Cruiser, and why it wouldn't really work going forward with any of this stuff, is not everybody wants to be sold the immersive experience of here's a weekend cruise length, like a cruise length, 3-day cruise, where we have to act like we're in Star Wars the whole time. Like I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I'm not as big of a role player. I know, like that's up some people's alley. Maybe yours, Ron, because of the D&D, right?
Very much so.
But I don't know if I could do, like, at some point I want to be able to sit in my hotel room, relax, and pop on the TV and check the score of the game or
Hmm.
whatever, and not be like, oh no, I'm actually up in space. I cannot turn on the TV. Like,
Yeah,
it limits the people that are interested.
for sure.
And when you have it as expensive as it is, that limits it even more. And another thing I saw very interestingly is that not everybody is a Star Wars fan, right? So,
Hmm.
like, let's say you have a family of 4, and maybe 2 of them are Star Wars fans. Uh, are the other 2 gonna go along with, what I'm saying? Like, you can't even, like, leave the place to go to one of the other parks, really. I mean, you can leave the Star Wars area when you were in Galaxy's Edge, of course, but it seemed like there was no other transportation other than from the hotel to Galaxy's Edge, which
Oh,
means you're kind of locked in for those 3 days of having limited places, and that's not really what I like to do on vacation. I like to be
really,
able to
really
have
playing into the Andor
choices.
vibe.
I really like to have choices on my vacation on like what I want to do, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, to your point, just for the price point, like
Yeah.
that thing was destined to
I could
fail from the start just because of that.
I look, I want to hit up every Disney park, right? So I've been to 3. I've been to Disneyland Paris, I've been to Disney World, and I've been to Disneyland California. There's 3 in Asia: Hong Kong, Shanghai, Tokyo. I could fly to Tokyo, go to their parks, do other stuff outside of Disney, all of that for cheaper than I could have went to Star Cruiser. And
But that's
that's when
ridiculous.
you're in some trouble.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous.
but we're not here for that. But that's I know it's a little tangentially related, but maybe you're right. Maybe that's why they're sticking with the Airbnb. Plus, they probably don't have to do any sort of upkeep on it because we know Airbnb loves to say, "Hey, clean up after yourself," and also we have to charge you a cleaning fee anyway.
Yep.
Okay. So
Oh man, I have such a funny story about that, but I'm not going to derail the show anymore.
yeah, offline, I guess.
Yeah.
Episode 8 is what we're talking about, which is part 1 of the finale. Tolerance is Extinction, part 1, written by Beau DeMayo and Anthony Sellitti, directed by Chase Conley. And the synopsis was the X-Men must unite to face a new threat. It aired May 1st, 2024 on Disney+. And currently on IMDb, it sits at a 9.5 out of 10, which is the second highest of the show, with episode 5 being a 9.8.
Wow. Okay. Episode 5?
Yeah. No, that's not Mojo.
Okay, I was mixing up in my head.
That's the lowest rated one on IMDb.
Yeah, I was like, what? Yeah, I got mixed up for a second. No, that was Life, Death Part 2, right? And all the stuff with Charles in space.
No, episode 5 is Remember It.
Oh, really? Wow, so I had them all messed up. I thought Remember It was 6. And then, yeah, I guess not. All right,
yeah, Life, Death Part 2 is 6. Yeah.
Oh, right, duh. That wouldn't make any sense because he sees it. Remember, it was first because Charles sees Gambit dead.
Yes,
so,
yeah.
All right.
Our intro characters did not change much, but it did make a change. Cyclops, Jean Grey, Wolverine, Morph, Rogue, Beast, Jubilee, Nightcrawler, and then Professor X makes a little sneaky entrance there, which made me know that he's going to pop up. Interestingly, Storm is still not. She hasn't rejoined the X-Men, I guess, is her thing.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I found interesting, Ron, is Magneto is not in the intro, but we do know he's alive. And I think this might be because... And look, I could be wrong because Storm's not in it as well. But she did leave officially the X-Men. Magneto was captured. I think Magneto's not going to be an X-Man going forward, right? He's going to be totally on the other side of Charles again, like you suggested at the beginning of this show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was very poignantly put in the episode. Magneto is right. We have finally come full circle to the exact opposite of where we were at the start, when everyone was buying into Charles's way, and it seemed like everything was so kind of honky-dory. To even drive that home further, we also see Asteroid M in the opening credits, which, as we remember, was a big part of the original series and was in the comics and all that stuff too. So yeah, we are going full steam ahead here. I'd imagine that's probably going to be the sort of pushing, like the thing that pushes the 4E forward. We're already starting off with good lingo tonight. The thing that pushes the story.
Get your comic comers ready. We got the
comers ready, baby. The thing that pushes the story forward into season 2 is going to be that conflict between Charles and Magneto from here. Because at this point, Magneto's not going to be listening to anybody. He is fed up. He just, with one mind EMP pump, took out every single Sentinel that Bastion had, and it is, good luck to anybody who tries to step in his way now.
Yeah, lots to talk about in this episode here. We kind of start off Cable shooting bottles. We get this nice conversation between Jean Grey, Cyclops here as they're talking about Cable, right? Like, we saw him a little bit at the end of last week, not too much. Then we saw him a little bit in Remember It, right? Which they bring up in this. And then before that, we didn't really see him except for when he was a baby. We did learn that Bishop and him did go into the future, but Bishop got separated from Cable as they were going through the time stream, I guess. Do you think Bishop comes back sometime this season, or are we done with Bishop for now?
That's a tough one, because part of me wants to say, like, yes, obviously, but Beau DeMayo was pretty poignant today on Twitter talking about, or not poignant, I guess direct would be a better way to put it, and saying, like, time travel is can't use time travel here, can't go back to time travel, can't fall back on that.
Well, yeah, and I don't mean like Bishop like coming in to save the day that way, but I just mean like, will he take part in this final conflict of the season at all.
I don't think so, because I think what he meant by that was that, like, we are done with time travel this season as a whole. So, like, what we have in front of us now is going to be like, uh, from this point on till the end of this season, it's just going to be about the fallout of what just happened with the Sentinels and Magneto and Charles coming back and all that, and ultimately taking down Bastion. But I don't really think there's anything from now until then that's going to require any sort of time travel-y stuff. You know what I mean? Like, all the chess pieces are already on the board in current time. Like, there's really not any reason for them to go back, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking like going back. I was thinking like Bishop coming. Like maybe
Yeah,
he
yeah.
knows this thing is coming,
Mhm.
and he decides to join them, and we get a nice reunion with him and grown up Nathan. I don't know, something like that.
Maybe at
But
the
yeah,
end when it's like when all of the
winding down.
conflict's done. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I don't know. I'm thinking we're gonna get a cliffhanger at the end of part 3.
Yes, probably. I don't think it'll
Yeah,
be. I don't think it'll be the type of cliffhanger where the entire story, like, they're not going to Walking Dead
yeah, yeah,
season
yeah,
six
yeah.
us, where we got to wait 8 months to see who Negan hits with the bat. It'll be like the main story will be resolved, but there will be some threads that were set up in this back half, and also that will just kind of carry over for throughout this whole season that were set up that we'll go into, a la Charles and Magneto.
So an interesting thing too is like after that conversation, we kind of skip to this scene where it's Beast, Cyclops, Jean, Cable, Morph, Wolverine, and they're all talking about the um uh like getting the down low on
Basically
Bastion, right?
Cable's telling them kind of everything
He
that
knows.
Bastion has done. Yeah, yeah, and he's going over the whole I guess kind of euphoria. Is that what do you use to describe it?
Utopia.
Utopia. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. About just, all of these humans being turned into Sentinels and how it all, like, kind of worked and all that. And we get Morph's little line of, "Oh, another dystopia where Logan's the last one to die," which is obvious,
Yes.
the old man Logan for call out there, which is really fun.
And Days of Futures Past,
And
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
yeah, there's a few futures where Logan is living
last
through
man
that.
standing. The blessing and the curse of being made of adamantium.
Yes. Last Man Standing. Yeah, he's gonna show up with Tim Allen. They're gonna
Yeah.
have a nice um Logan says, "Why didn't you stop Genosha?" This is where we learn that he has tried, right? And kind of what we thought was going to happen. This is a fixed point in time, or as they call it, a
Nexus event.
absolute
Or that,
point.
yes, absolute point. And we saw it in what was it, Multiverse of Madness, I believe. That was when they call it
And what
Nexus.
if?
And what if?
What
Yeah,
if the Doctor Strange episode where he is going back to try to save um,
Christine.
his girlfriend, yeah,
Christine, yeah.
Christine, and this Beast, when he's referencing this, he references that you know the the sorcerers of Carmitage actually think that there are things called absolute points. So we're getting some name drops here. It is funny he says strange before he does that, but I think he means the adjective strange, not
It
Doctor
was
Strange. It was
absolutely meant
definitely a
to
play
be an
on
Easter
words.
egg.
Yeah.
Yeah. I gotta say though, between the Deadpool trailer, we saw the portal, and now this, and we saw Forge's magic in Life Death
Yeah,
Part
yeah.
2, they're setting up a lot of ties between the sorcerers and the Camartage and all that, and the mutants. I don't know if they're gonna pay it off with anything at any point, or if it's just like one of those things where, like, the the Easter eggs kind of lined up in a way that was unintentional. But this is the third one in like 2.5 weeks now, 3 weeks, that we've gotten some kind of link between the sorcerers and the mutants.
I think for me what it is when you get a fan writing this stuff, um you're gonna get them using the stuff that's already known
Mm.
and popular and working in there, like using the world that already exists. I think sometimes what you do with when you get non-fans working on this stuff is they make up stuff that is almost exactly similar to something that already exists, but they don't know it exists, or they want to do their own spin on it.
Mm.
When you get somebody like Beau DeMayo, who's been very adamant on how big on X-Men he is, but also we know he's worked with Marvel and other things. He's like, hey, this stuff exists. I'm gonna drop it in here. Like, how can I explain for Beast to know about absolute points?
Mhm.
Well, maybe somebody that has magic that maybe would have tried something like this in the past, and he's a well-read man. He's reading this stuff from Carmitage or whatever. Like sometimes I think that stuff just lines up perfectly. And then
Mhm.
also, when you think about Forge's magic, it's almost like, all right, what's the almost the universal magic that's known for the MCU and Marvel right now? It's the
That
portals.
that one I push back on a little more though, because we went into this briefly when it first happened. We've seen so many different kinds of magic now in Marvel. Like it feels like a very intentional choice to go with that one. They very could have easily just made it, the same blue energy beams. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah. But I'm
it
I'm
just
just
seems
saying,
very.
like, what I mean, like maybe that was their maybe that will get paid off. I just don't expect that to get paid off. I think it's like the universal language of magic now, because Doctor Strange as a character was so popular in Infinity War and Endgame. They're like, I mean, like the portal scene as a whole is so popular. Like, stick that type of magic in everything right now. They're like,
Yeah.
they're slamming it in there.
True.
Um,
That's the whole thing. What do we got to do to get back to the point we were at before Endgame? Bring back
right.
the portals. Everything's got portals.
We get the news. This is an interesting twist I did not think. I think maybe when Charles arrived, we would get to this, but the news is
Hmm.
broadcasting the Shi'ar Empire's television that we saw on Bastion's screen, right? Like
Hmm.
we saw this last week, Bastion having that footage. The UN released it. He's working with the UN, so obviously we know he's behind this. And it's showing Charles at the Shi'ar Empire ruling them, like the whole, oh, here's my new husband scene that we got. And this creates huge ramifications because this is what's going to be the main cause of the protests. And I can see why, right? Like, this is kind of what we thought people would maybe latch onto with it is he they faked his death to gain sympathy, and then kind of like that is the way people are going to look at it. We get fake death stuff all the time in our real world when we talk about rumors, right? Like anybody that's died young, Elvis is still alive,
Tupac,
right? Like Tupac is still alive. All these people are still
Paul
alive
Walker.
to
Keep going down the
somebody
list.
out
Yeah.
there. But now you add in that this is somebody that was revealed to be a mutant. His killer, the person that they thought killed him, ends up dead, right? Like it
That was what
is
I was going to say. Yeah.
piling up against the mutants right here.
Well, because that's what I was going to add. Not only do they make it seem like the mutants were trying to garner sympathy, but they also throw that little nugget in there at the end of like, oh, and also the guy that supposedly killed Charles Xavier is dead all of a sudden, huh? Like, very much intentionally trying to paint the mutants in a bad light, and basically kind of the beginning of what we saw Cable, like you said, explaining to all of them around that table in the scene prior.
Yeah, they all kind of say like, "Hey, this is starting," right? And Wolverine cuts the TV, and he's like, "Bastion, it's Bastion." But yeah, Gyrick found dead. It's crazy. We kind of cut to Jubilee and
No, not
Roberto.
Gyrick. What's his face? Oh yeah, no, excuse me, it was Gyrick.
Gyrick is the one that's dead. Yeah,
Yeah,
and Bastion killed him. Just to be
yeah.
clear, that happened last week.
I
I don't
thought
know
you were
if we
referring to
talked too
Trask. My
much about that.
apologies, but yeah, I forgot. Yeah, Bastion offed him too. They're both gone.
Yeah, then on Jubilee and Roberto's side, they're at his parents. But in the background, we do see on TV, William Stryker's on TV, like going off about the mutants and Charles Xavier and stuff, which
Hmm.
I thought was a great touch. But his mom wants to do a fundraiser for Genosha because the X Men aren't helping.
No, they're not. I got to be honest with you though. Like the reason I just rolled my eyes, I hate Roberto's mother. She is just
Oh yeah,
awful, 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 awful.
it's
Like
performative. It
exactly.
is. Yeah, we don't want you to be associated with them, Roberto. We don't want to be tied to them, but we're going to put this front up of doing a fundraiser for
Hmm.
Genosha. And I do think she thinks she is doing the right thing, but it's performative. It really is like, look at us, we're helping, but behind her back, she knows her son is one of these mutants, and she is just like, "Hey, act like you're not." Right? We're gonna sit on the sideline and not do anything. She's gonna do something worse later on, but
Well, yeah, I would even take it one step further because, like, not only now that she knows her son's a mutant and all that stuff, she sees these zombie looking Sentinels come in, guns blazing, and
yeah,
then they just stop. Up, we're actually here to help.
we save them.
She made a conscious effort in that moment to choose her own public image over her
Yes.
son's literal life for as all as she knows. So I hope that that lady gets, I don't know, I forget which Jurassic Park movie it is, where the lady gets like brought up into the sky and then they drop her and then they're like biting her on the way down. I want her to get a death that rivals that in this show. F that lady. Roberto deserves way better. And speaking of, we finally saw him reach his sort of final form in this episode, which was really awesome too when he saves Jubilee.
Yeah, he's been practicing.
Yeah.
It's just he hasn't been. He doesn't want Jubilee to know.
Rogue and Magneto weren't the only ones using that danger room.
So Jubilee and Roberto just get up to go shopping. That's where their adventure is going to go at a certain point. But Jean Grey and Nightcrawler are taking care of Rogue, and this is, I think, a really important conversation between Jean.
Very much.
And
like I said
Kurt.
last week, how every episode has that one, whether it's conversation, one piece of dialogue, whatever. That was that. That was what I was referring to in this week. Like, and
Yeah.
and it seems like for the last few episodes, Nightcrawler's been like that guy to have those conversations. Like he's just so like stoic and wise in this show. I love the role that they put him in. Very, very much sort of a shoulder to lean on, you know, for those going through grief and stuff, much in the way that an actual priest is to a lot of people in real life.
Yeah, when you're spending so much time with the monks, I guess some of that wisdom rubs off on you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, but yeah, he has this great conversation where, you know, he's calling her, well, like Miss Gray, right? And she's like, "Please, it's Jean." And he said, "Oh, Madeline preferred her first name too." And we're starting to see some similarities here. Jean then kind of mentions to him, like, "Hey, I still don't know," because he kind of mentioned about how Madeline still didn't know what was real and what wasn't. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, Jean's like, "I still don't know. Like, I remember because of our psychic link, I can feel and remember the feeling of uh
Nathan kicking.
Nathan
Yeah.
kicking and the cravings. She remembers the cravings she had during her pregnancy and holding him, but she knows it's not real. She knows it didn't happen to her. And his whole point is kind of like, hey, if you remember how that made you feel, does it really matter if it didn't happen to you? Right? Like, you have the memories, you are feeling the emotion of the memory, you know, like
Yeah.
that is real to you.
Yeah. Yeah. It may as well have happened to her. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a really tough, really situation for her to be in. And I think the more that we progress here and kind of close out this season, I think it ultimately is just she is Madison, or she is Madeline Madison. She is
Madison.
That's somebody else. Yeah.
Yes.
From She-Hulk. I think they are just one and the same. Like, I don't know how much better they can really go about explaining it in a way that's not confusing. I think it just kind of is what it is, and yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
don't really
think
know what else to add. Yeah, it's a really tough situation for her to kind of continue having to come to grips with. But I think ultimately it's just what she's going to have to come to grips with is that she's never going to be able to fully come to grips with it, because like she's never going to be able to fully decipher now that Madeline's gone what is really hers, what's really not hers. I mean, obviously she knows the big stuff in terms of the baby and all that, but there's so much there that's just unfortunately going to have to continue to go unanswered.
yeah, and I think this conversation is supposed to kind of put an end to all of that of like,
Mm-hmm.
look, she feels whatever Madeline had felt, we're done. Right? Like she at this point, like you said, they're pretty much the same person. They have a lot of the same qualities because they shared a mind pretty much. They had a
Mm-hmm.
psychic link that shared everything. So anything that we saw like Madeline go through, pretty much Jean went through, and we can kind of move on from the story in that regard. You know,
And they also,
but
by doing that, don't have to hammer down exactly when
when
the
it
shift
happened,
happened. Yeah, it could just be, yeah, they all have the same memory. So good luck trying to figure it out.
and Kurt says, "Hey, blood is blood, but family is a choice."
Choose a
And
Dom Toretto.
and yeah, a very found family thing here, which is what the X-Men really are
On the
as well.
crux, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so let's kind of go to Cable, Jean, and Cyclops leaving the jet. They are looking for Bastion. That is their thing. They're going to go to his childhood home. They don't know where they're going at first, but they get there, and we learn it's his childhood home. I don't have a screenshot of it, but there's actually a really cool Stark Expo poster in one of his bedding
Second Stark
boxes.
reference we've gotten in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Stark
and
Tower was in that. Was also in when they're fighting Bolivar Trask. We do know that the Iron Man cartoon that was made way back then is technically set in this universe. So, given all the cameos we got tonight, it seems that pretty much nothing's off the table at this point. So, I'd imagine that is probably going to be one we visit at some point.
Yes, that'd be interesting. One thing that was very interesting, and I didn't catch on to it until Beau DeMayo came out and said it, but he gave us a list of episodes that you should watch before this 3-parter, and one of them was One Man's Worth. Here's a picture that he posted. This lady here is Bastion's mother. And in this episode, I know you're thinking, if you're watching along with us, like, oh, she looks not as old as she was in this episode. This is the episode where they travel back to the 50s when Nimrod is trying to assassinate Charles Xavier.
Yep.
So,
also, what I was actually thinking was I really like those busts that Beau DeMayo has on the bottom of his TV there.
Yes, yeah, because he's got Moon Knight. He worked on Moon Knight, right? And then he's got the Magneto, and then he's got the a framed X-Men comic or some sort of reproduction of a cover.
Mm-hmm. I believe that's like they that was like he mentioned like you all know what my favorite X-Men comic is after the episode tonight. So I think that may have been also like a not so subtle little nod. I don't know exactly what the cover was. It's a little older, but
it's not the one that he said his favorite. His favorite is X-Men 25, which is volume 2 25. So that would be the Fatal Attractions event. It has like Magneto on the front cover of that one, which it seems like they're adapting here. I haven't read that one, but I heard good things about Fatal Attractions. But one thing I think this is again what you kind of like when we're talking about where the connections come from. Again, I think this is like what happens when you have a fan running it. He watched this show during lockdown and COVID, and
for the first time.
No, like he was rewatching it like during lockup in COVID, and then that's when he kind of made his pitch apparently to Feige and them. And I'm assuming when he's watching, he's just like, "Oh, what's this lady's story, right?" And he's like, "Let's go ahead and tell that story here." And what happens is the father of Bastion gets infected by Nimrod, is something from the future that Nimrod does supposedly, that then creates this new life when he impregnates the mother to be a descendant of every single Sentinel from Master Mold all the way to Nimrod.
Mm-hmm.
So in my opinion, and again, they're not going to probably nail this down. I know we were talking about it off air, but I like to think, headcanon here, that this is when Nimrod goes back in time. He kind of has like a backup plan here because they kind of mentioned he's like a backup plan, right? Bastion maybe is a backup plan for Nimrod to be able to do this. That while he's going back to hunt Charles Xavier, he also infects the father, and from this point onward, he's going to be born and be a Sentinel in the past.
Yep. Yeah, it was the same thing that we were just talking about with Jean. Keep it vague. Keep it, don't nail anything down, because if you want to go back to it later, you can. I know we probably won't get, a whole nother arc dedicated to Bastion. But there's so much that goes into that with Nimrod and all that stuff that they just kind of throw at you very nonchalantly in an exposition scene. So there's still enough if they want to go back for a one-off episode in like season 3 or something like that. So yeah.
Yeah. So we leave from there, and we got Sinister and Cooper talking. Theories are done. Cooper
Yeah.
was not Mystique. She's
Crazy.
just Cooper, an X-Men character. But she has, she sees, she kind of has some words for Sinister, right? About equating him to a Nazi scientist, right? And he's like, oh no, that guy could have been so much more, but he chose to be a Nazi instead. Like, I knew him, right? Because we remember the second to last episode of the whole show in the original series, they focused on Sinister and had this whole where he's from, like the Victorian time.
Mm-hmm.
But she does see Magneto here on not a cross, but on an X, right? Yeah. Built like I don't know, like a man, like the jacked. He's taking his steroids. But yeah, he's on there, and later on, Cooper's going to talk to him and kind of have like this. They say you haven't really spoken since Genosha, and he kind of forces his eyes closed the whole time until she mentions something that makes him open his eyes. I think it's when she says she is sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And then later she is going to end up undoing, freeing him, whatever you want to call it here. So,
and we do see his, for the first time. I believe they were very well. I don't believe, I know they were very, very vague about Magneto's origins in the main show, because obviously you couldn't do something like that in a cartoon in the 90s. But they even show his tattoo from the event that I will not mention, because I'm pretty sure it'll get us pushed down the algorithm if I actually say it. But
really?
Yeah. But we all know what I'm talking about. And it was really like, whoa, to see them finally acknowledge that, because as much as this show, we've said that this show kind of can play to both audiences, at the end of the day, every single kid who watched this probably looked at their parent or grandparent, whatever, and were like, "What's that?" And good luck explaining that one to a 9-year-old.
Oh, so you're telling me YouTube is a denier?
Yeah, I guess so. Pretend it didn't even happen. Yeah, that's YouTube's game. No, that's a Twitter thing, actually.
Yeah,
at least nowadays. No, let me not. No, let me not. I'm just kidding. I'm just having, not having fun. That would be you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, they allude to that event quite a bit here when Cooper's going to give her a speech at the end of the episode. Real quick though, I really want to talk about Trish, because there is some friction there a couple weeks ago or last week, right, with her and Beast, and she comes to apologize to Beast while Beast is working on some sort of scanner that's going to find every single one of these Sentinels. So my question to you, as we will find out during the course of this, Trish is one of those Sentinels.
Mm-hmm.
She does ask, do they know that they're Sentinels? Like right before this happens.
Mm-hmm.
What we've learned from Bastion is he's kind of plucked out some people, or a lot, makes them these Sentinels, and then they release them without having any memory of this. But they do sign up for something that he says they don't know everything. So my question to you, did she know? Because why else is she there? That's kind of like, that's kind of my biggest question on Trish at this point.
I'm gonna say no, but I forget. Did we see? Was she one of the ones that got sliced up? I mean, she's like dead now, right? You would probably have to imagine.
Well, that's my other question. Is I think in the comics there was no way to come back from this stuff, but like, let's say the EMP blast knocks her out.
Mm-hmm.
do they wake up normal again?
Just yeah, or yeah, does it like
Is this a
fry?
lot of people? This is
Yeah,
a lot of people dead.
yeah, a lot of yeah, and it would just so I guess that has to be answered first because ultimately it's moot if she's just dead from this point on, and we'll never get the answer. But I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say maybe she was promised like maybe some kind of mutant story. You know, maybe that was kind of how she got lured in. Bastion was like, "Hey, I've got some information. You know, kind of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours." You know, maybe presented it as like, "Oh, we're just like taking something from your DNA to make humanity better and create this serum that's gonna catch humanity up to where mutants are, so to speak." I'm sure it was one of those things that it was mostly just Bastion silver split tongue sort of thing. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little bit of like, hey, I got some dirt on the mutants. Do you want to know? Sort of thing in there.
Yeah, that's a good point because I hope that she didn't know, right?
Me too.
Because she did have a nice touching moment with Beast,
Yeah.
in episode 1 and all that. But I saw some people reading it as, oh, she's actually anti-mutant, but she's posing as this mutant sympathizer to do this stuff. And I don't think that was the case. But
Me either.
then part of me is like, why is she even there, right? But then there were so many of them that it's not like they needed her to be there. She would have just activated at some point and she would have showed up.
Yeah.
But one thing I think that leans into your reading of it is the guy that Bastion is showing being put into the green liquid. He's like, this guy is just a normal everyday guy I plucked off the street, and he was, I think he even mentioned like pro mutant,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like he'd get on the chat boards, like talking to people, but
Yeah.
like
They
he was like,
they made a point to call it the dial up chat
yes,
rooms, just to really hammer the 90s part home.
leaning, and it sounded like he maybe like he was speculating or knew that this guy leaned pro mutant. I don't think that guy is signing up to be this mutant sentinel. So I do think that, like you said, when Cooper's like, "Hey, are they being told what they're signing up for?" He's like, "Well, I'll leave out some details." I think he leaves out most of the details, right?
Yeah.
Like he's like outright lying to whoever he's talking to about
Yeah.
what's going to happen.
Yeah, very much so. Like I'll stick with that take of I think it was him basically kind of twisting what he was talking about catching humanity up to where mutants are in the evolutionary
Yeah.
chain, and presented it in a way that made it sound super cool, but as we saw, super wasn't.
Yes, and Bastion has this great speech about how he overloaded them with
Mhm.
Genosha, humans, and the greatest weapon was apathy.
Apathy. Yep.
Really great line. And he says to Cooper, like, "Hey, you're acting like you're more scared of the dinosaurs than the asteroid or whatever,
Mhm.
right?" Like, and she's like, "No, I'm actually scared you're the
You're the
asteroid."
asteroid. Yeah. Yeah. And lo and behold, he absolutely is.
Yeah, because while it's a utopia and everything works fine in his future, humans are still extinct.
Mhm.
They're sentinels, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not. And what we see from these people is that it's not a life. Like they turn into this thing and they are just doing their own thing. Like they're killing mutants, right? Like we don't think that they're actually the same person that they were before.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's obviously killing them. It's just ending um in a different
Form.
way.
Yeah, like
Yes.
their consciousness and their free will is done, is dead.
Right.
Their husk is replaced by a synthetic again thing that Bastion can just at the snap of a finger, force to do his bidding. So there's no life there.
Yeah. And we get some more members of OZT here in this
Do we ever?
council
Holy crap.
council room. Here's one of them.
Whoo!
We got
Whoo!
Doctor Doom, and
Oh
we've
boy.
got Baron Zemo, and we had some other random lady. But
I've seen people speculating that could be Madam Hydra. slash Viper, because we do
Oh, I
see
thought you were going with Madam Web.
no, yeah, oh god, no. But because we do see Silver Samurai a little later, they have a big connection in the comics. He's kind of like her bodyguard, so to speak. He kind of goes back and forth on the hero villain, back and forth in the spectrum there. But I'd imagine they're probably going to introduce him in that way in this show. So it would probably be a smart bet to assume that that's Madam Hydra.
Yeah, pretty cool using these characters. Again, just using the world that already exists in Marvel to go ahead and show characters that are going to make the fans happy, but also have a point. They also have a point in the story. They have a purpose in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was really great. Just I was really excited. I was like, "Whoa, we're going there. We're getting Doom. We're getting Baron Zemo in these little
And we know,
sections."
I'd imagine Fantastic Four is not too far behind him, because that was the ones that we know are set in the original X-Men animated universe was Spider-Man, who we saw, Fantastic Four, which we've now gotten the nod to, Iron Man, which we've gotten 2 nods to, and what was the other? Oh, Silver Surfer. We got like 2 seasons or 1 season of that kind of standalone Silver Surfer show. But
And pretty much anybody that was in Spider-Man, which we knew
yep,
were like Blade, Punisher, I mean like
Strange,
Daredevil, like
yeah,
Strange. Strange was in this show at I think at some point, right? Didn't
yes,
they show him and Thor in the original
yep,
when Phoenix
indeed.
or when Carol was one of them?
Yeah, it was
But
it
yeah,
was during the Dark Phoenix moment. Yep.
yeah. So yeah, just using the world that exists, showing these characters. This is all I've wanted when it comes to this.
Yeah, dude, and it's
Um,
not like live action stuff. You don't have to pay $50 million for
to
Robert
get Robert
Downey
Downey
Jr.
Jr.
to come
Yeah.
in. Yeah, it's such an easy thing to just slide into the show. It makes everybody so happy. It expands your world, makes it feel more lived in. There is no downside to it. Don't get me wrong. If it was to the point where every single week we're just getting gratuitous cameos, then But this show has never been like that, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
Yeah,
If
we also
anything, we
got
could
Juke.
probably sorry, I don't mean to keep cutting you off, but I was gonna say, if anything, we could probably even get a little more in terms of how ingrained these characters are into the story,
Yeah.
as opposed to just being the sort of one-off shots or the miniature scenes like we saw with Cap last week.
We got Jubilee in her new outfits. I do think that rumor of them all having new outfits is correct, but they're just little tweaks, right? Like she's got a black like unitard on,
Mm-hmm. More comic
jumper
accurate.
type thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then she's got the yellow suit,
Yep.
the yellow jacket
Coat.
still.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's the way we're going with a lot of these characters. We find out Ford, the butler, is one of these Sentinels as well. He starts attacking Jubilee and Roberto.
It's like, couldn't get the mom. Come on.
Yeah, yeah.
She's a mutant.
We get this great like 3 battles going on at once. We got Roberto and Jubilee running through the mall. Like you said before, they're gonna break through the glass of the window at this fundraiser.
Yeah.
And his mom's just gonna be like, "Go with the nice men." All right, and they do. Then we get the battle at the mansion, which I love when Trish throws Beast out of this wall,
Oh, so
and
cool.
Wolverine's like, "I gotta talk to Hank about his taste in women," and he like just goes to town.
It's like,
Wolverine.
all right, Logan, you're lusting after married women, so maybe let's not talk
Yeah.
about whose choice in women is who. But he is right in that moment. And this, man, we were waiting for Wolverine to finally really be Wolverine in this show. Man, talk about kicking ass. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Like Wolverine flying down from hundreds of feet in the air and slicing
Just slashing
Sentinels on the way down, dude. Like that, come on. Like that's not something even as nerdy like comic book fans, like that's not even anything we would think of if we were scripting an X-Men, just throwing any cool thing we could think of at the wall. Like just oh god, so cool. And then we get Nightcrawler's swords. Oh
Yeah, we get Morph turning into Juggernaut to fight here. But yeah, we get Rogue about to be attacked, and Wolverine is like, yeah, they ask him like, why are you like resisting? He's like, I got 6 reasons why, and we get Kurt here
Mix that
saying, no, mein
9.
Freund, 9.
9
And he wields his 3 swords, one with his tail,
is a
and
perfect number. 9.
really goes. It really was a great fight in this moment here. Really enjoyed seeing them back to back fighting, and I mean every time it looked like it was going to end, and they reattach themselves or whatever, right? Like these Sentinels are insane, but
Also,
Nightcrawler.
Oh, no, sorry, continue.
I was just gonna say, Nightcrawler comes up and is just like, "We got to get them out of here. We got to get them away from Rogue." And we get this nice scene of seeing them
Oh,
teleport
so cool.
while they're fighting. Yeah, really cool scene here.
Because we never see, like, we've seen, how many times have we seen Nightcrawler just bamf out of places, but we never see, like, what happens
He
when it
sees.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, to get that POV was really, really cool. Also, I saw some people mention this. I'm not sure, but is this the first time that we have seen Logan, like, actually use his claws to stab, like, humanoid beings?
I think so. I can't recall off the top of my head, but
Because
it
it
wouldn't put it
definitely,
past
like,
me.
when he stabs through Trish in the air, like, it definitely, like, caught me, like, off guard for a second. I didn't really know why until I went on Twitter afterwards and everyone was saying it, and I was like, huh, I guess that makes sense.
I think it makes sense too, because if you remember, we talked about it a few weeks ago, but Spider-Man was not even allowed to throw punches in his
Yeah.
show. All right.
Yeah.
And Batman, the enemies weren't allowed to have guns at certain times, right? Like so, being on a morning cartoon area, they did have a lot of restrictions. That stuff's all gone. Like we've said before, like Scott is dropping dams and hells, right? Like we're getting a little bit more blood than we thought we would, and we're getting now Logan slicing through people. Now, of course, they're human, but they're able to reattach themselves, so it's not like he's actually killing them,
Yeah.
right? So it's a little different, but yeah, they're definitely some good cannon fodder for him to go crazy. And I think also just show how real of an issue this is because, I mean, nothing that they're doing is working, right? Like
Yeah.
it takes Magneto doing the EMP to get it to finally end.
Dude, they've done that a few times this season. I think back to the first episode, and we were talking about how, like, oh yeah, it was the greatest hits, and they were all kicking ass, and they looked invincible, and Storm had her Omega threat detected moment, and it was just they were a well-oiled machine. But it feels like in every episode since then, we have seen them get their rear ends kicked. Whether it's the stuff with Madeline and Sinister, or even last week with Trask and all that. Like, with the exception of Mojo, like basically the combats have all been so evenly balanced, and like it feels like there's actual stakes and peril there. It's not just like the same old cookie cutter run of the mill comic book fights that we're used to.
Yeah, episode 1, when we look back at it now, was seeing this team at their peak.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're operating without Charles. Cyclops is the leader. They're taking on, like you said, they're taking on the Sentinels. They wrap this stuff up real easily. We get Roberto asking Scott like who he is, and he's like, obviously the good guy, right? And how much it's fallen since then. Like earlier in this episode, he's like talking about how can I be a leader that Xavier was, right? It's like Scott questioning himself to Jean, and like there's doubt, and then there's the doubt in the real world where everybody was pro mutant at the beginning of this. Now they are turning anti mutant, and maybe they're not obviously the good guys anymore, right? It's starting to twist a little bit in the mind of the public. All of that stuff works really well with, like, start us off hot. We were all like, this is what we wanted to see. But then what we really wanted to see were episodes like 5 and this, right? Where they're getting put through the ringer but it's consistent with what X-Men stand for and what they're fighting for. So it's like they're getting put through the ringer, but it's also um it doesn't feel like when you just put a character through the ringer for no reason. Like
Yeah.
it seems like everything has logically progressed us to where we were. And the Sentinel stuff seemed like wrapping up the Sentinels from the animated series, but it actually was set up for everything we've gotten since then.
Yeah, yeah, that's very much like it felt like the end of Trask and like the Sentinels' last stand, kind of like how the beginning, the first of the original show kicked off with the night of the Sentinels. This was kind of like
Yeah.
the end of the Sentinels, and they were like, maybe the end of those Sentinels, but just wait till the Prime ones and the ones that are injected with
Yes.
this weird tech that Bastion's created come around. So yeah, yeah,
Some great moments with Scott, Jean, and Nathan though were like, you know, Jean telling him to use the seatbelt. We
yeah,
get this plane's going down and Scott being like, "Screw it, I'm not doing this again." Referencing when he
there you
was
go.
a if I can get that right,
Sounded like me.
referencing when he was a kid and was going down with the plane and his parents pushed him out and all that. Um, and then just like that whole scene with the Porsche was really cool. Cable rips off the top of it, and Jean's driving it with her mind while Cyclops and Cable team up, and he's like, "Let's show these toasters why you don't screw with the Summers." And you get the great landing like this. I
Yes.
mean, this was just peak.
Hero pose, baby, strike it. Ah, so good.
Yeah, it was. It
You
was
know,
really great.
last episode I mentioned that I would be a little upset if they just kind of did away with the whole Scott and Jean conflict and all that stuff.
Hmm.
I take it back. I loved everything we saw in this episode, and all I want to see now is more of these three as like a
A
funny,
family.
ironic family. Yeah, and that weird like dynamic there of like Cable being their child, even though he's older than both of them.
Yes. I was thinking about you when that episode first kicked off, and like Scott puts his arm around her, and there
Yeah.
was like no rebuffing there. I was like, oh, I wonder if Ron's gonna dig that. But
Yep.
yeah,
No,
he
I'm
did.
back. I'm back, baby. We are so back.
And I really want to get to this part before we wrap it up. But when we get Bastion arriving to confront Cooper, so he drives a car to the mansion and then just teleports
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
What a badass, I guess that is.
Hell yeah.
Somebody else will drive the car back, I guess. Um, you know, we have Cooper say you're a monster. He's like, I was born this way. And
I'm on
then
the
we get this
right
great
track, baby.
speech from Cooper here. It's like, in Genosha, I felt a lot of things: pain, grief, admiration of those who fought the odds. You know what was the most surprising thing? No one was shocked, not even me. I had the biggest case of deja vu. Uh, and then, she mentions the thing is, Magneto knows us better than Charles ever did. That we know better, but the scariest thing about Genosha wasn't the death or the chaos. It was a thought, the only sane thought you can have when being chased by giant robots built to crush you. Magneto was right.
Hell yeah. Finally,
Chills. I had
finally.
like chills during that moment.
Yes, very much so. Like it very much mirrored the scene of the trial of Magneto, and it just brings
Yes.
everything from that opening little crescendo we got finally back full circle. And
Don't
it's
make me let you down, right?
yep. Guess what? Guess what? They made him. And hell hath no fury like a Nito scorned. That's what I always say.
That's what you always say.
Always. Numerous times a day, actually.
um yeah, Magneto's flying during all this. He says enough, and we get the EMP.
He didn't
He's
even wait. He
using
didn't even
like,
take time to get dressed. He was just like, nope,
yeah,
I'm on a mission.
Speedo.
Yeah.
What I read is people think he's using like when he goes to the poles, right? He's using the
Yes.
magnetic poles of the Earth to amplify his power, which gets the EMP to wipe out the Sentinels, but also creates this huge blackout worldwide. And while that's going on, we see our boy, we see Spider-Man reacting to this.
Let's go.
They did confirm this is Spider-Man from the animated
Yes.
series, of course. Big
Imagine that.
shock
They're like, no, it's
there.
Tom Holland. Like, what?
Yeah, it's the Tom Holland Spider-Man. Actually, it's right when he's doing his final swing
Yeah.
in No Way Home.
He is
We
zapped
get
into an animated universe. Yeah.
Silver Samurai, like
Mm-hmm.
you referenced there.
Yep.
When he popped up, I was like, Silver Samurai? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then of
Deep
course we
cut.
get Omega Red.
So cool.
So I'm guessing he's going to break out of there, right? Because the power went out.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I've seen. I'm not really sure how they're going to present him in this, because what we saw from him was very limited in the original show, and he was always presented as a villain every time.
Yeah,
But
I
he's
think there's 2 episodes of him or something.
yeah, but he's also another one that's got a little anti-hero to him. So like the fact that he's just been trapped away in this tube, being poked and prodded and tested on by, I assume that was also like another Bastion thing, right? Is that how you took that?
Maybe I kind of forget where we left off with him at the end of the original series. If maybe he was captured by somebody else, and this is like his imprisonment before,
Only
and then he's
reason.
gonna break out or something. I don't know.
So can you pull the picture up again?
Yeah, because it's green.
Yes, exactly. Because it was green, and we saw earlier in the episode that the Sentinels were being dunked in that green sort of like stasis water. I don't know, or I don't even I don't think the water was what was turning them into the Sentinels. That was just kind of like the stasis, that kept them in a state of stasis until they were turned into.
I think it is what turned them into it though, because like that one guy dipped down, and then when he came back up, he started like having his
Okay.
freak out.
Okay, so who knows?
Like
Maybe he's like immune to it or something. Or again, yeah, like you
yeah,
said, maybe it's just a total thing that doesn't connect at all. But
I think a lot of times they just make these things green. I don't know.
yeah, it's very much a tank of chemicals color. Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, that's all of the pictures I had. That's the cameos we got at the end.
We also
Um,
did see a few others in that scene where Cable is sort of going over everything that Bastion did in the future, and they were showing the scenes of like the mutants helping rebuild the Golden Gate Bridge. We see Polaris, a much older
oh, okay, yeah.
Polaris there. We see Rachel Summers, who we speculated earlier in the season, like we weren't sure if this was going to go the Rachel sort of Days of Future Pasty route, or if they were going to go I'm sorry, the Rachel route, the Days of Future Past route, or the Cable route, and they ended up going the Cable route with Madeline's child and all that. But we finally saw a little glimpse of her in this show, so I'd imagine she's another one we'll probably be getting a story with in the second season of this show.
Yeah, very curious to see how they're gonna get out of this. But I want to ask you this question too, because at the end of the episode, Logan says Magneto actually did it, and Morph says saved our hides, and he says no, declared war. And we get the professor, he's like, where's the professor when you need him? The plane crashes, and he says, I hope I'm not too late. To me, my X-Men, and we get like the picture that you have in the background there of like Beast, Storm, Jean Grey, Cyclops hearing this from him. And I assume at the beginning of next week, we'll have all of them together. But who do they take care of first, Bastion, or do they take care of Magneto first? Like, do they all team up to take down Bastion, and then afterwards Charles has to be like, Magneto, you were out of line? Like,
Yep.
is that what we're seeing?
100% what I think is going to happen. I think next week will be. I was a little thrown off by Logan's line about war too.
Really, I saw that coming when he said that. I was like, oh, he's gonna say like declared war, because
like
they're
declare
gonna
war
look at
with
this.
who? Humans? Because like
Yes.
How so though? Because like we've seen these humans be turned into these zombie-like sentinels. Like
Mm-hmm.
humanity has seen this. Like they saw it in the charity like thing, like when they take Jubilee and all that. I find it very hard to believe that all of humanity is going to believe that these human beings that have been plucked from their lives and turned into robotic sentinels that look like the living dead are like a good thing and on their side. You know what I mean? Like I almost feel like they would be thankful to Magneto for shutting them down. Very much kind of in the mindset that Val Cooper is in.
It's all going to be with the narrative of who's spreading what. Right at this point, they're already anti-mutant, and then you get what originally was thought as the only thing that can stop mutants, Sentinels, and you get Magneto wiping them out with one thought.
Yeah, true.
It's at a moment of like, what can we do to stop them, right? Like, they're always and this is just one of them, and you know that even the most powerful one, Charles, isn't alive, and at this point they're thinking, oh, he is alive, and he's going to bring an alien army to Earth. That's what Stryker's saying, you know.
The gears are turning.
You know, for the normal everyday person, now they're also without power. How long is that going to take to get restored? How many people are going to suffer or die from
Because of
not
that,
having power? And like we thought, if these people can't turn back to normal, all these people are dead. Like, I could totally see how the normal everyday person would be like, oh, we gotta fight these guys, or like, this guy just wiped us all out with one thought. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?
And not only humanity thinking that, but specific members of humanity who are also super powered. Maybe the gears are turning, because in my head I'm putting together how this is leading to Avengers versus X-Men in season 2. If this whole thing is just like, if this ends with them taking out Bastion and taking out who they perceive to be essentially the line between them and death, with mutants standing in the way, you know what I mean? Like, Bastion's the only one with his Sentinels now that Trask is dead that is protecting them from that. And then they spend this last episode going scorched earth, Magneto fighting them and all that stuff, and say, you know, we get kind of a Civil War situation like we were talking about last week, where they, you know, they wipe out a city off the face of the earth in this battle. You know what I mean? That's a hell of a setup for season 2 of like the Avengers stepping in and being like, all right, enough. You know what I mean?
And I think that's why it's also very important to show Roberto's mother here. She's pro-mutant, but when it was, again, she's pro-mutant, air quotes, right? She's
When
doing
the
this
rubber
fundraiser for
meets the road,
Genosha's.
Jack, you're nowhere to be found.
But once it's going to be inconveniencing her, she chooses her public image because it's too hard for her to deal with having a mutant son. And her thought is, why not just go with the men? You didn't do anything wrong, right? Like, just go with the men. You'll be okay, I'm sure, if you just act. It's like what people say with the cops, right? Like, just act
Exactly.
just follow orders and you won't die.
Yep.
And we sometimes learn that following orders, they still kill you anyway, right? Like, there's still stuff that happens.
Yeah.
I do think that is why her role was so important, is that the normal everyday person who this doesn't affect is going to be like, yeah, why don't they just stand down? Like, why? What are they doing? Why are they fighting back? Like, they're causing more harm than they're, saving. And that's going to be, I think, maybe what a lot of season 2 is covering. I don't know if I'm going to go as far as X-Men versus Avengers, but I do think,
come on, Jordan, for once, give in. Say yes. This very awesome fan fiction-y thing is happening. Let yourself buy into the hype.
I will not. Nobody's appearing in Deadpool vs. Wolverine.
I was just gonna say, wait till we get to that episode.
But yeah, there's definitely things I think that they're going to focus on with this, and what makes the mutants so interesting in the world is, like you said, there's other superpowered people, but the mutants are always the one that are going to get the blame, and it's because they are going to be the ones that at one point outnumber humans, and that scares them. But not even like the people with powers that this would give people fear about, but how about the people in charge? The UN, the nations that have weapons that are like, okay, yeah, we can just nuke them, right? Like there's going to be things that that might set this off even more without it involving the Avengers. But it's like the people higher up that are like, dude, the UN was behind this. They thought they were making a new Sentinel, not that they were making people.
Yeah.
But now they just saw all those Sentinels that are the most advanced Sentinels get turned off. It's like, okay, now what's our backup plan for taking out the mutants when they inconvenience us? And that is, I
It's
think, going to be them leading to something there.
I picture it, it's like this is a horrible reference, but I'm throwing it out there anyway. It's like a kid getting caught with their hand in the cookie jar, but then they look over and their mom's got like a baseball bat just ready to wail off on them. It's like not only did they get caught doing shady stuff, but now they have like the entire might of the mutants in the form of Magneto just staring them down, ready to just obliterate all of them.
The UN is going to be Tim Robinson in the hot dog suit being like, we're all trying to find the guy who did this.
100%. Well,
and the smart people are going to be like, it was you.
Any trouble for this at all.
You're in more trouble than I am, all right? That's what Magneto's saying to Bastion.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, depending on the situation.
Yeah.
But no, really great to see, and I think we're getting more and more to my dream of the finale having every single X-Men in that opening credit.
Yeah.
Except for Magneto and Gambit, I guess. But, getting Storm in there, we got Professor X at the end of it this time. Storm is the only other one we need.
Yeah, Storm and
Bishop, if he comes back.
Yeah, but he's not.
But
yeah, like
if he doesn't come back, then
like yeah.
If he doesn't come back, then we just need Storm in this opening credit.
Yep. Yeah, we need Storm back. Period. Like, I know they gave her some time to shine in the life death episodes and all that, but I feel like if there is one character who's kind of gotten the short end of the stick this season, besides Wolverine would be the obvious choice, but I would throw Storm up there too. We need to see more Storm being Storm in these last couple episodes and in season 2. Like, she's got to be a focal point.
And I think she will be. I do think this was maybe his way, Beau DeMayo's way, of sidelining her so that way he could tell this story, because she's too powerful.
Too OP, yeah.
To have been through some of this stuff. So it's like, all right, now we'll get her back when we really need her at the end. She's gone through some growth, and season 2 she'll just be a part of the core squad again. But she went through character development. She got her powers back.
She'll probably be a leader because she's been gone, throughout this whole thing from the team. I feel like this is probably going to end with a bit of a reshuffling of the power hierarchy. Not to quote Dwayne Johnson on this show. We seem to go back to that scene a lot. Maybe because
hey, what can I say? But you're welcome. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say maybe just because it was so damn ridiculous. Next thing we're gonna be talking about peeing in bottles. Anyway,
I didn't even read that, but I only know what you and Chris talked about.
Please read it, dude. It's so funny. It's so funny, and it's just like, all right, we won't go off on the tangent. We'll save it. But yeah, I think there's going to be a big reshuffling of the hierarchy of power in the X-Men, and I think Charles and Storm are going to be like the sort of co-leads at the top. I wouldn't honestly be shocked if they kind of continued season 2 what Scott and Jean were talking about earlier this season about leaving,
getting away.
Yeah, like I think we could very much see them sort of take the Storm role
with Nathan,
like family road trip.
50-year-old Nathan with them as their kid.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Don't make me crash this plane, all right?
Yeah. So help me. He's got the glasses.
Yeah.
I will turn this car around and blast a hole in your face. Yeah.
Don't make your mother take the wheel here, all right?
Yeah.
I will get back there.
Where are we? Phoenix.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't think about maybe them still leaving, but I think if they do leave, they would obviously be coming back in season 2. But I don't know. Do you think there's a chance that they do like blue team, gold team, or like split some of these
maybe
people up occasionally, or are we going to? I don't know. So Beau was questioned about Emma. He said we're focusing on the core group now.
Yeah.
So Emma's not showing up. Season 2, maybe they do, like you said, they reshuffle. She comes back as an X-Man. We get, maybe some of these other, like, does Forge join the X-Men? Is he part of that opening credits when he comes back with Storm, or does Storm leave him there, right? Like, his power is pretty useful. He can make, like, whatever, right? Like, let's
If you're going
get
to be
him into
making
the
the
team.
things anyway, stop making them for the damn villains and make them for us.
Make him for us. Yeah, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know then, because now, like, if they were to go that route in season 2 of having Scott and Jean leave, that would be taking a very, very important storyline off the table, which there's no rush to do the Scott and Jean thing, especially right after they just had so much peril in their relationship in this season. Maybe it's smart to hold that off for season 3 or 4 and, like, give them a season to be happy again, to sort of reset before you plunge them back into relationship hell. So yeah, I think actually I stand by it. I think if we do get the Emma thing, which I'd imagine we are, I think that'll probably be a season 3 thing. It would feel very kind of like, I don't even know how I'd describe it. Just it would feel very weird to spend this whole season like basically breaking down Jean and Scott's relationship and building it back up to the place they're at now, where everything's great and, like, it seems like they're on a good path going forward, just to go and turn around in the premiere next season, which is 3 episodes from now, and have it be like back to square one and they hate each other and now Emma's trying to break them up and all that stuff. They planted
I
the
wasn't
seed.
even really talking about, like, Emma in that way, just maybe joining
Oh yeah,
as
it's just
with
me
her
going
new
off on a tangent.
transformation. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that
Okay.
was just me spinning the yarn, so to speak.
All right. Anything else that you want to weave while we're talking? Let me just real quick. Next week, Tolerance is Extinction Part 2. The X-Men work to settle the score before it's too late. That's the synopsis. Of course, these are being very vague going forward, thankfully. But yeah, anything else you wanted to talk about before we wrap it up?
I guess just really quick, one more blurb that I'll throw in before the ending of this, and we saw Magneto come and, like, go OP and, like, take out all these Sentinels. This episode had such Infinity War vibes to me. The team all split up, everybody fighting their own battles, for the most part losing. Like, we get that little sort of like hope where it seems like they're gonna get Rogue out of there and, like, they'll be able to survive the attack on the mansion. But for the most part, they kind of got their butts kicked this whole episode, and I thought it was going to end on the cliffhanger of, like, dire straits sort of thing. And then obviously we saw that didn't happen, and they kind of wrapped up all the Sentinels in one fell swoop. But for like 26 of this episode's 30 minutes, big time Infinity War vibes.
Yeah, so is Magneto the Thor arriving in Wakanda?
He went for the head. Yeah, Magneto actually did go for the head. He was smart.
And is the I like to equate Nightcrawler and Wolverine with the Titan crew in
Yep.
Infinity War, where they're on Titan and they're like, just when you think they're about to get that glove off, like they fight all those Sentinels and then there's like 10 more flying at them and they're
Yep.
like, God Christ,
Yep.
here we go.
Yeah, you see him coming up. That was a really cool visual too, by the way. The back shot. Oh God. Not what I should. I can't help but step in it in this show, man. I really can't. The behind shot of Wolverine and Nightcrawler when you see the other Sentinels kind of coming up over the horizon, so cool. But yeah, they were definitely the Titan team for sure.
And then we got the Hulk landing in the Sanctum Sanctorum, which is Xavier in the crash landing, just in different order. But yes, there was a lot of Infinity War vibes.
Yep, big time.
All right. Well, yeah, I would actually say I like this better than Remember It. I think this is my favorite episode. I think this one was paced very, very. I can't believe that there's still 2 more parts to this, because it is amazing what they packed into these 26 minutes, and very excited to see what comes next. But yeah, I think because I think, like, Remember It had really great second half of the episode. The first half was a lot of build up. This one was like from the moment go. Like I said, felt very Infinity War. They're like, here, what's his name, Thanos? Like, that was the beginning thing with the Bastion thing, right? Like, that scene where they're all talking about what's coming and how can they prevent this, and just really great really enjoyed seeing, especially the cameos were great. But that's not why I love it. It's just, man,
I think
can't
that
wait to see what happens.
yeah, that's basically what like I think in terms of episode quality and gravity and all that stuff, the episodes are right on par with each other. The fact that there was so many awesome cameos and this one on top of it probably puts it over a little bit of remember it for me, but it is neck and neck right there. We're talking about like 9.99 out of 10 and 9.98 out of 10. Like just perfect.
Yeah, that's why I was shocked when I went to IMDb and this one was rated a little, still a little lower than the other one because, but that one was 9.8. Remember, it's rated 9.8 out of 10. So, pretty hard to beat.
Facts.
All right. Well, if you want to send us any sort of feedback, Twitter at TO Infinity Saga, email us marvelplusrecaps@gmail.com. Or you can like and subscribe to us here on the YouTube channel, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We talked Ultimate Spider-Man issue 4. Not Ron, but
Not me.
Chris and I did.
Took a mental health day. We're good.
Yeah. There you go. Everybody take a mental health day. Do it tomorrow. Call out of work. We've got so that's done. May 4th, our Star Wars Phantom Menace 25th anniversary discussion is dropping on May 4th. That's a Saturday. Free comic book day as well. So make sure you go to your shop, get some free comic books.
Big day.
Huge day. My baby shower. Not that everybody's invited. Not everybody is invited. But
can I come in like Charles in this episode and just crash through your ceiling?
Just crash right through and be like, yeah, to me, right? So yeah, Saturday we're dropping that over on the Pod Awakens. That's our Star Wars podcast, and we'll be talking all things Phantom Menace, celebrating the 25th anniversary of it. Just kind of talk about what we like about it, what we love about it, all that kind of good stuff. Feel good episode about the Phantom Menace. So if you hate the Phantom Menace, that episode's probably not for you. Then we have we're continuing to drop the chronological Clone Wars over there. Elseworlds is, constantly talking any sort of Superman news that has been coming up. We had an episode last week talking about the Kents being cast and My Adventures with Superman season 2 getting a little preview.
Guys,
so that stuff's
baby assholes.
I was set up for it. I'm sorry. And yeah, I think that's mostly everything here. Every month we're still going to be talking Ultimate Spider-Man. We'll be talking. What did we say for July? We're going to talk the first X-Men issue. And then every month after that, we'll kind of just talk the general X-Men comics in one special. So that way we're not recording every week, but also it's like, hey, read them all, and then we're going to talk about them in one discussion. I think that is a fun way to do it. Mostly highlighting Uncanny X-Men and X-Men. If we read any of the other ones, we'll have short discussions about those, like Phoenix. Yeah, I think that's everything. Of course, we have some good ideas that we're getting ready to maybe record and release later on as well. Some more fun stuff as we build a Deadpool and Wolverine. So make sure you keep your eyes out for that. The movie's only about 2.5 months away. Getting close. All right, like I said, TO Infinity Saga on Twitter. Marvel Plus Recaps at our email. So that's at Gmail. Marvel Plus Recaps at gmail.com. Thank you all for watching and listening. We'll talk to you next week when we talk Tolerance is Extinction Part 2.